Hüp. Hüp.
Hi guys, to your September monthly. So I pulled a few cards that is going to be pretty much for all of us. Maybe our messages, maybe our reading, general reading for basically this transition. And it's kind of like really telling to me. It starts with Milky Way. It was the first card that came through it, and it kind of like really got me giggling because I'm rewatching those series through the wormhole with Morgan Freeman. So if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like really interesting to really see how basically that physics interact with most likely even our spirituality, and how we are comprehending those, I mean, additional or alternate realities, right? Because as you know, Earth is the part of the Milky Way, and but Milky Way has probably billions, you know, it is probably one of billions of galaxies that we actually know in the universes that we are absorbing, right? It has, I don't know, billions, probably 400 billion stars, and it is the one that is the closest to the sun. And it's kind of like interesting because they have managed to, everything that you see on in the sky is basically past. You're not seeing the present because it takes time for the light to come and reflect. So everything that we see is not really what is going on in that moment. So it's kind of like a concept in itself that kind of like we need to kind of like wrap our head around. So this, it's kind of like really interesting for this month because we are going through basically Virgo transition, and actually also Libra, so I can see actually both kind of like sending their own messages, right? So this is really telling us to regain our perspective. Maybe we strayed away, maybe we kind of like lost gravity, maybe certain people don't gravitate toward us or we don't gravitate toward them, right? It simply kind of like it is time to possibly step back and then allow ourselves to detach in order to kind of like gather information, right? And it's kind of like going into that internal aspect of ourselves that kind of like observes life instead of life basically happen to us, right? It also is basically telling us to look at things from different point of view, from kind of like understanding that hey, we are part of this big universe, right? We kind of need to kind of like understand not only where our position is, but also how everything can affect us, and how maybe even the small emotion can affect the entire basically universe. So it's kind of like really interesting because the next time is dream time, and this is kind of like this beautiful story. And I know that the Australians are going to correct me because this is talking about the Aboriginals of Australia, right? And this is basically their place that exists before time. So it's just like when I saw these cards coming out, I was really giggling because this also talks about how basically Earth was formed, right? And they're talking about that they had this ancestral ancient ancestral, what is the word, spirits that kind of like remained in the kind of like very forms that was created, so including all these animals and hills and stars and all these kind of like other features that we kind of like see around us. It's basically kind of like basically continue to present today their gods, right? So this is really talking about our either individual but also I believe group spiritual template that kind of, in particularly in this card, talks about things that have been passing down from one generation to another. So we are talking about at least 60,000 years, although those aboriginals would say they existed since the beginning of time. So in one of those traditions, right, there is this creation story that is involving this Daijiraidu, which I think it's pronounced, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of like hollow, right, log that kind of like emits kind of like woo, that kind of like droning sound when kind of like is being played. It's kind of like really nice. It's kind of like really gets you into this vibration, and you kind of like really start feeling that connection when you hear it. So, you know, kind of like it is again time to kind of like sink deeply and understand that sort of like you are that crossover between spirit and physical reality. So it's like a breathing, comes in and comes out. What are you letting in and what are you letting out? Maybe it's going to be kind of like some kind of realization, because this is very much like Hermit card. It talks about solitude. No, it doesn't talk about loneliness. It really talks about the quality that we need to have in order to kind of like understand that, you know, sometimes we need to pull things inside of us to understand, express our own creativity. Maybe something got stuck. Maybe there was like sort of like stalemate. Maybe for some reason certain things couldn't happen. Maybe they're not part of the big picture, right? Because it could be that you're talking about a person. This is this card called Loyal Heart. And it's kind of like really amazing to really see, because as you know, Libras are always kind of like thinking in those terms, right? That, you know, there is like this royalty. And what I really like about this card is like that these two owls are actually looking in each other's eyes. So there is like this big heart, and there is like this big understanding between the two of them. That's kind of like I really feel was more or less talking about us personally needing to reconnect. Maybe we got disconnected. We need to reconnect and understand how our actions are affecting other people. That also, even on the lonely island, the tree is going to grow and be magnificent, and nothing is going to stop, not even a storm, because the light always can be found, right? Maybe we need to find Loyal Heart. Maybe that is what is happening, because I really think this is really addressing the later part of the month, but that's maybe some kind of like self-understanding that we need to kind of like come to. Maybe this is really talking about our partnerships and friendships and romantic relationships, right? Maybe they have some qualities in common. It is really good to kind of like see this, because part of this reflection is going to be, this is the mirror of me, right? So this is really talking about also us being dedicated and devoted back to our friends, to kind of like express that faithfulness. And I really think it's going to really be all around, kind of like understanding that maybe we pushed too far or we didn't do enough, and kind of like coming into this balance. It is kind of like really, really interesting, because this is telling me that your kind of like long-term loyalty to your goals is going to become kind of like very evident in this world of conditions where, you know, all our aspirations for success kind of like sometimes assume form kind of like in reality, but success is nonetheless looks like taking shape, and it was inside job over here from what I see. We kind of like really need to kind of like in all this kind of like process stay flexible, because if we are inflexible, what do you expect to come out of that process? We kind of like have to kind of like come to this kind of like bigger perspective that is basically talking about here. So I really would not advise any kind of like stubbornness of any kind. Now, interestingly enough, that we did get here Thunderbolt and the Outsider. None of them is a good card. So it is really telling me this is that basically Tower card. But here, as you can see, lots of people are jumping off instead of from Tower, from here. This is really telling me about ego death. it is really telling me that we need to shed some aspects of ourselves that maybe we were like really holding on for such a long time. Maybe we kind of like felt as an outsider. We would always maybe meet people who would always keep us, some kind of like foot away, or kind of like it was always a distance that we couldn't somehow overcome, even if we tried it. The truth is, like, this came reversed. So this is telling me that maybe something is happening that we are even clueless about something, because we all build our own egos, we all build our own life. It's basically all this house of cards is like all that ego stuff, where especially we are getting really like more and more kind of like divided with choices, and we don't have any more universal news and universal things, and we keep looking for things that will reinforce our basically already viewpoint. And this is really telling me that this is something that you are needing to really deal with. Maybe this month you want to kind of try to just to listen to something different, attend to classes that otherwise you wouldn't attend, kind of like really talk to people who are much different. Because look at this card. Hello, hello. Who came to say hi to everybody? Say hi. Say hi here to camera. Camera, that's it. Pretty girl. Walk up. So this is kind of interesting because some people don't like when my kitty cat Sapphire comes over here. And this divining, it's all about observation and it's intuition. Intuition usually kicks in and clues in when you are really observant of this perspective. And this perspective is like, this is what happened. Just like as I was saying, some friendships and some kind of like love relationships will become coming to you to acknowledge that. Just like Safi jumped in, said hi, and I love you. And I really think this is like something we can really look forward. I think there are some conditions though, and these conditions would be few things that we really need to figure out. Also, maybe what obstacles we have created, and if this is a really big deal, or how to really kind of like get off that high horse, how important we are, because we live in really strange times, right? And this card, as I was just about to say, look at us through this fence, how beautiful these colors are. And of course, this little child looking inadequate, it's kind of like looking what is out there. I really, really want to be there, and what's going on. Maybe the child is in the garden and looking out, but maybe looking into something else. Now, I think the key in this picture is this basically chain. And look at this chain. It is opened. It doesn't take much to really take away this chain. So now these two cards together, what do you chain yourself to it? What kind of beliefs are you holding that maybe need to be released? You have to figure out if something that you were really holding as really important, this is who I am, without this I cannot live. Try to shed all these kind of like core principles to a minimum, and you will see how you're going to really be able to embrace more people as well as to be embraced. So this is kind of like a general part of the reading, and now we are going to go in the individual signs. Guys, I still have the speed up promotion. Still, if you order your own reading, you will get it much shorter. So instead of 3 weeks, you're getting in a week. For the regular one, instead of 1 week for a rush one, you're going to get it in 3 days. And urgent, it used to be 3 days, now it's like 24 hours. So kind of like make your pick, and you can check it via my website, cattarot.ca. And guys, let's not forget that there is a contest going on where you can win a 15-minute reading with me. Part of it is like leaving comments over here on Facebook or on Instagram, and that's going to be one winner a month that I'm going to pull from basically all of these guys. But there's going to be a much maybe faster way if you come to my live, which is every Saturday at 11 o'clock EST. You need to comment so we know that you are there. Just say hi, and some of the moderators are going to kind of like make the pick. They can call it any time. You have to be present in order to get the award, and you get this like 15 minutes with me, and from that point you will just need to contact me and you're all set. And of course, nothing beats private reading. This is just your energy and me, and we are really looking down and trying to find not only what's up, but also what is the best way out of it. And this is it. Let's start with this month's Taroscopes. Hello Aquarians, and welcome to your September reading. And again, as you know, given this is a general reading, the best is to get your private reading. And once when you're a client, then you get your coupon, and then you're getting your discount like anytime like you need it. So it's kind of like really good to be in the process. And plus, also, if you sign from my mailing list on my site, so check it out, visit kettarot.ca. It's going to be a pop-up, just say your name. And I'm really bad about it, so you're definitely not being spammed. I think I only issued 1 or possibly 2 newsletters. I should be more frequent, but generally the plan with that is to send, I don't know, maybe meditations, maybe extra reading that only people on that list will have, or something like that. In any case, you know, I like to kind of like treat people who kind of like treat me with their devotion back. So what I see over here is kind of like interesting. I was like shaking my head and saying, oh, 2 5s. What do I do about that? But also, like, I think I had the clue here worth waiting for. It's about divine timing, because 5s are generally talking about learning and change, but also about loss. So it cannot really talk about some kind of like lesson and important change, right? And the idea of this kind of like 5s seem to be that loss is important. If things are going to push past the status quo to something new, different, kind of like, or better, right? So it is kind of like really important to work with sort of like how the life rolls, if you really wish, right? It is really important for us to have our own individuality. Aquarians are the sign of mankind, but also sign of individuality, because most people go with the flow, right? As my mom said, when you stand up, like, I mean, your head is being chopped, so you're staying out. But I kind of like really always did stand up for the right thing, and I really did not care for the consequences. You know, Schopenhauer said that the truth goes in 3 stages. First is basically ridiculed, then it's violently opposed, and then in the last stage is accepted as self-evident. So of course, if you come with some kind of like haywire ideas that we maybe sometimes am being labeled as, first basically we are going to be laughed at or put down, especially when it comes to work kind of like setting, oh no, this is tried and true, this is how it is. And I get it, I was a boss too, and I do understand that people will come to me with all kinds of stuff, and actually I was one of those people who did check, and then if it didn't measure against my style and my process, then I would say, look, we can revisit it later, but this is faster or more efficient because of this and this and this. I didn't want to discourage people of bringing the ideas to me, because of course I can grow with that. But at the same time, some people are horrified when somebody wants to change the status quo. That almost like feels like attack on them, because people resist change. And we Aquarians don't resist change. It's almost like, change? Oh, give me more. I want kind of like another dose of this. So this is kind of like where this difference kicks in, because it takes a leader to do that. And it looks like we are dealing with also understanding ourselves. To me, this is really about understanding who we are as individuals and what is like this big plan for us in life, right? With this card jumping out and this card basically being on the bottom of the deck, coupled with this one, and look at this, we also have the world reversed. So there is like still something connecting to the past. There is like still something that is not switching or shifting as it should be. So there is like basically a reason for concern. But as I said, if it's loss, right? Because here they're passing by the church. Why are not getting in the church? They don't look like being in such kind of like wonderful shape, right? So look at this. Especially like, I mean, you would feel bad for humans. We feel even worse for the cats. It's kind of like, how hard is it to find this warmth? But they have each other. Here, they don't. So whether that means that you are finally cutting the cord of the past. Sometimes that pain that we experience is just because it's hard to cut the cord. Because even thinking that we are not going to think about someone feels like almost like turning back on that love, turning back on this like big kind of like vision and a big kind of like plan we really so wanted for ourselves. Aquarians, we are very and I just hope I can speak for everybody. Please give me this in your comments. But we kind of like really usually put other people ahead of us, and that generally cost us. There is that expression that I have learned, and I'm still horrified hearing it. It kind of like does make sense on some level. I can talk about it. No good deed goes unpunished. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, right? So it really, I think, talks about being measured, because just throwing away kindness on people who are resisting change, instead of like understanding that this is benefiting not only them but like to so many people, maybe it's not what they think is their best interest. Maybe they have a different plan, whatever, selfish, different, they don't want you to get ahead. People have all kinds of like trains of thoughts that basically keeps going on. Are you guys noticing this heart? It's kind of like appearing on a table. It actually doesn't exist. It's a cloudy / rainy day in Toronto, so there is like probably a message, to be very loving message. So let's start. Let's see what's basically happening for us. Love yourself first. Yes, honor your individuality, honor who you are. Engagement, finances and career, calling in your soulmate, reconciliation, very soon, it's safe for you to love. Huh, that's interesting. Soulmate, true love. It is going to be really, really important month, guys. Septembers generally are very important because September is a month number 9, meaning you'll reap what you sow, right? It's what were you doing along the line. And if it's not a good month, this is basically simply saying, it is time to realize what went bad. Remember how we saw these cards, kind of like maybe some of us are going to really benefit, others not so much. And it's like simply really talking about understanding that process is just like normal, and we are shifting in a new stage, at least understanding that certain things need to be acknowledged. So I'll be telling you the cards as I keep going along. So let's start. Let me see if I can make it a little bit closer to you. There you go. Calling in your soulmate. It looks like some of us have been trying to basically praying to God, praying for that little piece of the sun, like for us. Aquarians are generally not unlucky, but we are not lucky either. We don't fall into Sagittarian category, right? But this really tells me that there was like not meeting of the minds, as they call it, as the basically legal lingo. This is generally a card about teamwork. And teamwork, this kind of like earthy kind of like element, is really important if there is like something to grow. If you plant a seed and you don't water it, so teamwork is like earth and you kind of like nurturing, then really you cannot expect much out of it. Oh my gosh. This is the karma card, judgment card. Judgment is really always talking about past lives, or something from this life keep catching up with us. It could be that past is catching up with us, somebody from the past appearing, or some issues from the past reappearing need to be resolved. It's giving us this opportunity to clear that kind of karma. When this reverses, it tells me somebody really knew the difference between the right and wrong, and they picked wrong. They picked not to kind of like choose us. So it kind of like really felt, yes, it really felt that we were left hanging. This is not necessarily hangman, it is 8 of Swords. In 8 of Swords, we see the kitty in the tree, basically crown, blindfolded. You do know how cats are squirmy even if they were not blindfolded. Kind of like, how do I go even though they have the basically claws and they're like well equipped to kind of like climb up or down. But it is kind of like really obviously displaying the situation of huge hesitation, of possibly even fear. When this card reverses, there is like this finally the understanding. See, swords, even though they could be harsh lessons, they're really good lessons. When we kind of like experience harsh lesson, we actually do learn. Like we learn kind of like very much. And I really think it was something that trained us and helped us reach higher inner maturity, I would say. That somebody really tested us how strong we are in our convictions. And it almost like really tells me that we really wanted to build something with somebody, and it was really the choice from our past lives. It was somebody we felt that resonance, we felt that connection. But at the same time, there were obstacles in a path, whether that obstacle was that we hesitated or they hesitated going forward, or something third happened that sort of like got in the way, which kind of like is really also interesting that we have two fives and we also have two sevens. Both of them kind of like have that message of instability. Sevens being very, very spiritual, right? Like here is like sort of like the personal level. You need to kind of like put your foot down. You need to understand who you are, but you also need to kind of like reposition yourself and maybe shift. Where sevens are more or less talking about, hey, where are you going, right? Where are you heading? Finances, a career, something got derailed or something might get derailed, or we are thinking, oh boy, I have to kind of like get a rein on it. Do not think in terms of black and white. Something can really kind of like end up in a ditch. So be kind of like really wary of probably moving very fast in any kind of direction. Make sure you're kind of like dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's, because it's going to be really important that maybe somebody's going to even point a finger at, hey, it is you. But let's see the clarification. This might not be after all about work. Even though it's talking about finances and career, it says financial issues are a factor in your love life right now. And it is like really weird card. And because of like, sorry to say stupid, kind of like statements like this, I don't even like to read the bottom of these cards. I do really like the chapters and I like the pictures, and that's why I keep using them. But I really think to me finance as a career could maybe mean that we have neglected something we really needed to listen. In this case, this is clear message to me. That little heart that we had as a message to us. And at the end of the video, you're going to see, because when I start recording, my selfie was all over here. And I was like, oh my gosh, people are already waiting for this general introduction. And now another kind of like 2-3 minutes of selfie. So end of the video, selfie is featured for how I started this video. So this is telling me that there was a third party. Somebody did not want to, couldn't do that, take a reign of the situation. Maybe we feel that something really derailed us, something was causing really enormous pain. This card generally talks about this third party, or it can talk about rejection, but the rejection is usually not, hey, I don't like you, I don't find you attractive, kind of a thing. It's more or less, you know, yeah, I know you want me, but hey, I'm so important. It's kind of like something that really, really kind of like feels like a personal attack, right? Of course, rejection is always personal, especially in love, but this one is like even more so. And it could feel that somebody else, let's say, won, if you really wish. Because this almost like feels like that somebody could have been married, that somebody was maybe taking monetary, kind of their monetary development or something was related to money. But this also could mean, and that kind of like was the first thought that I had over here, that we are overcoming our pain through focusing on work. That certainly is valid for me, because I even started this channel just not to really deal with my pain at the time, which was coming to me from all sides. And it could be that you are doing that through something else and kind of like feeling, oh my gosh, my life went to hell in a ditch. How do I repair this? But probably, the repair is, and that's why I kind of like when Safi comes to the table, because it is important, the point where she comes through. Maybe she doesn't speak English, even though I do think she does, and she pretty is much vocal. I ask her, oh, I'm coming to current reading, meow. So she really knows what she's doing. But I really think this is kind of like more or less about needing to kind of like do steps moving forward. And it's ultimately, as we saw in the baseline, a loss that needed to happen. It's kind of like really hard for us, and I was really thinking a lot about this concept ever since I did Twin Flames, and please check them out. End of the video, there is the link. And most people just run away from the loss, and they all want this happiness. Well, this is like having a scale that is like this. The thing is like that we cannot understand. That's pretty much what the Chariot talks about. How can you understand love without pain? And if you have only good thing. So what happens? You're eating steaks all the time. It eventually is not going to feel like the steak, something special, right? So I really think it was something, and that's why we had a karma card, that it could be a person that we are like thinking he or she did that to me, and I have to get over it. The truth is, the way I call it, and I'm going to call it, you guys please tell me in the comments if you agree or not, that it was the situation, not the person. It was something about the situation that called for us not to go in that direction. In fact, almost looks like it didn't even allow us to go in the direction, but to go in a new direction, because everything is pointing out in that way. Now in the center over here, we have 2 pentacles. It's not really element where we enjoy. That's why, we are not materialistic. But because you're not materialistic, and because we kind of like have this tendency sometimes to sacrifice ourselves, so therefore no good deed goes unpunished, actually works out that this karma always kind of get rewarded for us. So if we focus too much on material for us, we actually end up not getting it. It's kind of like really weird. I mean, we can go to the career and keep going, and the next position, and higher promotion. But the truth is, it always feels, never mind, corporate world, it never feels right. It always like feels that most jobs are just like not meant to be, unless we are like farmers or, doctors. Like, it just, sometimes I ask myself, because my profession being before this one that I started to do now was marketing, and it's kind of like not necessarily the biggest benefit to the mankind. But here I see something interesting. Here I see love yourself first. Again, your self-respect makes you more attractive. Yes, it does, but self-respect and being egoistic and doing the stuff makes no sense as far as kind of like explaining this card. Love yourself first to me is kind of like healthy, and this is the Queen of Pentacles, which kind of like, I really for the longest time seen myself more or less as Queen of Pentacles, not Queen of Swords, that we technically should be. Queen of Pentacles is somebody who is like reliable. We are reliable. Somebody who is grounded. We are grounded, even though we are near sign. We kind of like really know what needs to happen. That's why we stand up, and that's why we are trying to shake this kind of like soul shaker of this, what is called this life, right? This is the person who is kind of like trying to organize life better, make her life better. I'm so happy to see that in the upright for us. It's kind of like, ooh, we have 2 queens. We might have somebody in our life, or we have maybe an aspect of our life that we feel is lacking. We have this Queen of Pentacles, Queen of Cups, and 4 of Cups. And Queen of Pentacles falling, I think it's telling me that we really need to insist on this to kind of like stay there. This is that kind of like ground. And if you ever watch this kind of like, what do you call it, electrical outlet, the ground is really important. The ground can actually save us. And that's kind of like the saving grace over here that I see. Queen of Cups is kind of like that lovey-dovey, and usually Venus sign is always going 2 signs down and 2 signs up. We just cannot be Venus in Leo. We can only have Venus in Aquarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius, or Pisces and Aries. That's it. That's basically, if you are born as Aquarius, that's all there is. So if you kind of like are affected with Venus in Pisces, that's the kind of like only one, that probably like this is kind of good news for you. If you're not, this is really telling me that maybe we are just getting bored with whole kind of like emotions. This also can actually talk about mother or motherly feelings. And I really think altogether that we kind of like are trying to find some new solutions. To me, this kind of like usually tells me, hey, why are you pushing yourself through all of that? You need to nourish yourself. Maybe we don't know how, because that's kind of like the kitty over here. Look at the kitty under the tree, like all these offers done here, and then kitty is going, yeah, I don't know. Or maybe it's just like so lethargic that like really it's not that appealing. It's more appealing to sleep and to do that. 4s are generally talking about stabilizations. 4s are generally talking about maturity, right? Kind of like needing kind of like to get there. I really think this is really talking about emotional maturity. What is that we need? So we need one part, we need to not to be bored in our life. Another part, we need to kind of like know what is that we feel comfort with. And also we kind of like really see this, what most people kind of like miss, most readers, is Queen of Cups has unusual cup, not cup like this. This is a big one, but guess what, it's closed, meaning that we should kind of like really have a good rein on our emotions and not to let every John Schmo and Nancy in our world, because it looks like they come to our world, they mess our world, and off they go. And sure enough, it is a lesson, but how long and how often do we really need those lessons? So something did not ascend. So something did not go to the next level. 7 of Pentacles, again, something was not positioned well, or something couldn't grow. We have to figure out what goes, what doesn't go. So let's say you're investing your money and you're investing to company A, company B, and company C. And a year later, you're seeing that company A really didn't bring you any money, but you didn't lose any money. With company B, you have earned some money. With company C, you have lost your money. So what do? You cut off company C for sure, and you're debating what to do with the company A. So when this kind of like reverses, you're failing to do your due diligence. You're failing to look into things, and then who is to blame for that, right? And there is like this Knight of Chalices. So I really think this is really talking about paying attention to how we approach relationships, because failing to do something is failing for something to grow. And we maybe become a prey of people who are like overly romantic, because we kind of like process emotions a little bit differently. We really value highly loyalty and transparency and somebody who is like really there for us. It is very difficult for us to be vulnerable, but when we open up, then we are like sort of a good prey for people who don't really mean well. This person here actually does mean well, and we have this like turtle the second time coming through it. So something is coming in slowly but surely, looks like, in our life, and it looks like that changes that can happen. We have the second karma card now showing up, the Wheel of Fortune. So it looks to me that we need to screw our head straight and say what do we want, and not to just be guided by nice song or nice things, and just like when we meet somebody, I don't know if you watch the Bridget Jones Diary, it is like one scene when she gets this email from her boss, Hugh Grant, the womanizer, she immediately hears the wedding bells, kind of a thing. Yeah, that kind of like would be that kind of like feeling. But this is really calling to be more grounded, kind of like don't go in this direction. People are people, they are showing the mask, the personality, and kind of like we really need to deal with that. The wheel is like a good card. It really talks about, hey, big changes are coming. Something is really, really big ahead of us. We kind of like really need to focus in that direction. So things from the past clearing are now calling that we need to kind of like remove almost like tumor or cancer. And just you have to ask yourself if you want to plant the seeds and those seeds are faulty or bad or I wanted to say disabled, kind of they're not going to grow. So let's remove stuff and kind of like have the healthy growth in the future. So what is crowning us? Reconciliation. It's kind of like weird. It says someone from your past is returning to your life, and I see it here. But this doesn't really tell me, because there is a 9 of cups over here. I really think this could be either the new person who comes with this premise or old person. But this really to me spoke about us looking at the past. You know, sometimes you look at the mirror and you see yourself back. Sometimes you look at the mirror and you're dreaming, right? We are dreamers after all. And you're like seeing and living through whatever, something that either you want or something from the past. So you really don't even see the person in the mirror. Because the 9 of Cups, especially when it's reversed, somebody really think they're like so special that maybe they're trying to call us. And you see, this is what it is. Aquarians know how to cut their cord. But what happens, because we are that energy of 11, and we are like September of every year has the strongest energy of that 11. So it's going to be a very important month. And you probably will see all this kind of like digits everywhere. So this is really talking about there is like this finality. There is like the situation. Maybe they're really thinking about us and trying to vibrate with us because something has been happening here that couldn't grow. But it is time for us to call it. We need a new energy. We need to wake up and see this cup on the turtle coming through there our way. You see, this indecision, there is like this 2 of Swords and there is like this Queen of Swords. So here we are. We are going to make, in this case, intellectual decision. Is this person deserving to be here or not? Are these thoughts doable? Look at here. In 2 of Swords, the kitty is very much like in this card, like blindfolded. There are only 2 cards in this entire deck of 78 that are blindfolded. And both of them are reversed. So there is like kind of like decision that has been reached. Maybe somebody didn't choose us. Maybe somebody is really coming back and saying, well, now I choose you. Well, a little bit too late. It's kind of a thing that we need to recognize if that's like that saving an investment. If this person didn't bring us returns, and that's why the Queen of Pentacles kind of like makes you think this way, well, then let's not be that generous and that much of a humanitarian. If somebody actually did push us through the growth that we had to go through because of the pain, or maybe because of some kind of like juggling or womanizing, or, you know, dropping us to get something else, we don't have to be first, but we need to be important and we need to be respected. And I think that's what's going to be kind of calm decision and minimizing anything that in the past maybe we would open our arms to and say, just come to my life. In this case, we might open our arms and give this woman or that man a big hug and say, thank you. I do thank you for the pain that you have caused me, because that pain made me into a different person. And I think this is like where Aquarians are heading this month, because here very soon we are not moving with that rapid speed. Like this is like Knave of Chalices, a Knave of Pentacles, so Page of Pentacles. Page of Pentacles is like something really pragmatic. It's kind of like almost like a sharpener. You kind of like know that you have to have your pencil sharp if you really want to like write with this. So you kind of like keep maintaining things and keep moving that forward, kind of like understanding the new direction and something long term. And this is really good. Kind of like having a really big goal in mind. Ten of Pentacles is actually not only thinking about, hey, how do I fall in love with someone? How has happened? This is really thinking how. And remember that Milky Way? Remember this card? How do we position? And even though we maybe have a tiny little spot over here, then this spot is maybe our island. Maybe this spot is our family. And whether this is a family that is our blood family, or that family is our friend, that are our friends, because we kind of like have friends that actually start to form our family. This is like kind of that positioning, who we are, who is important, who isn't important, right? And like Six of Pentacle, this is lovely. Six of Pentacle is like, I think we are also going to be cutting off left and right this month. It's going to go progress forward with people who have been there for us. They didn't have to be there for us in a grand manner, but sort of like the people who really kind of like will pick you up when you're down. You know how Oprah says, you know, it's kind of like really easy to find people who will ride with you in a limo, but how many people will take the bus with you? And that's kind of like really that very pragmatic approach, where Six of Pentacles is always kind of like talking about instability, where the give and take is the lesson that we need to learn. Maybe somebody's going to say, well, you know, I'm back now because you know I had to take care of my family, or da da da. So what are they really saying? Well, you came second or third or fourth, and it doesn't matter, this all this pain, like they didn't cushion you, they didn't really care about us. And I think this is kind of like the message I keep getting here, like we are getting this ridiculously strong messages here, that yes, we maybe miss somebody, yes, we maybe miss and feel at times, oh, I wish I amounted to this, or my dreams when I was a teenager were this, and look where I ended. But you ended exactly where you were supposed to, and the pain coming your way is actually shifting you on your life path. This is your 11th sign. This is a year number 11, and this month has vibration of 11. So watch September 11th, 9/11 is going to be extremely, extremely important day. So this card is talking about learning that lesson, give and take. You just cannot give unreservedly. You have to kind of like moderate that give, and maybe just like wait for somebody just like to do something for us. It's really asking us to almost like be different than we generally are, because this is the card that we had, this outsider that is like showing up here for us again. So this is kind of like telling us that no, we are not going to be with people who somehow just shove us aside or make us feel, I would not say unimportant, but make us feel undesired, unappreciated, probably is the best. So the forward thinking, future thinking sign is kind of like really thinking about the past. I think that being a child, we kind of like experience love naturally, and then we spoil it for them. The being parent is a very responsible and very difficult job, because it's like the growing thing, and wherever you put in this person's head is going to grow bigger. So making sure that things are done in a really proper way is important. So this is really talking about things have been placed in our head. Is that a fairy tale? And I'm like really, and trust me guys, fairy tales, if you really study, they were not really fairy tales when they were written. Snow White was killed, and I don't know, the Cinderella had her toes cut off and stuff. It was kind of like brutal, kind of like it would eat your face off. And of course we sanitize it later. So the reason for that was like to actually scare people of basically even thinking in a direction. But our generation grew up with, hey, this is like so much fun, and look at these dolls, and the expectations of something. So this is really talking about pulling in that energy of, hey, like, you know, we were a child. As a child, we kind of like had this good kind of like feel of that energy. There's like Six of Cup energy. Well, Two of Cups and the Sun. You know what, guys? Something new is happening, and that something new, open your heart. Of course, the rest of it, to give and receive the highest energy of all. It really sounds like I'm reading Shakespeare or something. I love Shakespeare, by the way, so don't get me wrong, but something kind of like written in an old English. This is really actually lovely, guys. This is really talking about, remember how I said you'll reap what you sow. Some of us are going to be dealing with tremendous pain. The others are going to pack this pain away and just like start clearing the air. That's why here that card worth waiting for was about the divine timing. This is like the most ambiguous card in this basically entire deck. And basically to me this is more or less saying, look, things happen for a reason. And this is kind of like really telling me also because we did have two karma cards. So this soulmate, it could be somebody from the past really returning over here. But maybe initially they are going to be rejected and put in their place if they did something to us that have been cruel. For the others of you who didn't have any kind of cruelty in a breakup, this person could be coming back, because this is definitely the card of the past, and soulmate card rarely comes out, very rarely, and most often really talks about, like, I mean, the breakup and the end of the contract. But no, this is a new direction. For those of you who are single, that definitely talks about a new beginning. Like, this is the 10, 19, 1 and 9, 10, and this is a 10. There is like something really huge, like really, you know what, almost like looks like that we gave up. Some Aquarians gave up on the romance. It was like, no, not for me, or not really give up, but sort of like, hey, I don't really know in which direction I can go. So that is changing. We understand that we are likable. I hope you're going to say I like your cat in your comments, because it would mean to me so much. And that we're also lovable, and that kind of like there is like this like sunshine. Like, this is such a positive card, even though our card is the star card, which I love, and this is the second card that I love the most in this entire deck. It's like really talking about finding our place under the sun, finding the warmth, the reason why we were born, finding that, you know how people chase all their lives, why am I here? This is going to be very self-evident, and this could be simply because you have a child. This will be simply because being an Aquarian, you can help that child really grow into somebody wonderful, and hence you have to watch what kind of ideas you're putting in this child's head. It's kind of like understanding that this giving love is very universal, and that even this person who basically causes pain also deserves love. That's a concept that many signs cannot like wrap their head around, and we can both basically love somebody and resent them, because love and hate are not the opposites, as people say. Love and indifference are the opposite, in my opinion. Here we are talking again, soulmate card. Again, our ability to trust. I think somebody really took away our ability to trust and kind of like make us like, I mean, you know what they say, no man is an island, but we probably have been an island for a while to kind of like get the perspective. So where is that island? Where do we position ourselves? Maybe we did not actively wait, but there was an essence, maybe for a past while, that we have been guided, right? So this is this card of ultimate trust, of coming our way. The Hierophant and the King of Pentacles. You know, somebody might be coming into our life who is going to be very transparent. King of Pentacles, what I really love about King of Pentacles is somebody who is down to earth, very much as we had a Queen of Pentacles. So somebody who will appeal to us because of that attitude, that we kind of like want to know our positioning. But this person can actually really benefit our lives with understanding, and this person is marriage oriented, and we can actually trust this person. This is like extremely positive combination, and something is growing in spite of us. In spite of us. As you see in this card, something has died. There is like this tree stump, and this is possibly the best rendition of Ace of Wands that I have seen from any deck, because it shows not only it is growing, but is actually stable enough for us to actually be able to hold on to it, right? And it's combined with true love. So whether that is a person from the past, that we are going to be able in a very calm way to resolve things and let go of the past and maybe start a new future, or a completely new person. This is really saying that even if it's a new person that is going to have lots of elements in that relationship that have been trigger points for us in the past, and it's going to be able to, we'll be able to approach them differently. You know what they say, keep doing the same things over and over expecting different results? Well, we will not be doing them the same way over and over expecting different results. In fact, we'll be more of a planner. We'll kind of like more look like 2 steps ahead, like being a chess player. 2 of Wands and 8 of Pentacles. 2 of Wands, as you can see, there are lessons from the past. You see, this wand is bolted, and this wand is in this particular deck having cups. So we are leaving some emotions in the past, and we are having swords in the future. So we are kind of like moving towards some ideas, and we are kind of like understanding the whole point of everything. Maybe we have been too idealistic and we have to be more grounded. Well, grounding is really important if you really want to get along in relationships. Sure, you can have like, 2 air signs, John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and then you're up in the air. Unless you're independently rich, good luck with that, right? And there it is, air, again and again, the trust, and again it's repeating. I think when you lose trust and when you lose hope, you lost everything. And that's kind of like how it looks to me, that's kind of like what happened, and we went for a spin of the entire cycle, and that spin is changing. We are sort of like asking why questions. We are asking uncomfortable questions, and that's kind of like idea with Aquarians. We kind of like are so open-minded that we are trying to figure out even like a completely nonsensical answer, and that's because of our intelligence. And the more intelligent people can actually create more connections. And sometimes this is really bad because we give people too much of a rope. Let's give them less, because Page of Swords is actually asking very uncomfortable questions. You know, this kid, oh, why is this? Why is this? And why is this? It's kind of like Page of Swords. Sure, very annoying, but you know what? Look, it's better to annoy people in the beginning than be sorry later. So look at this. This is kind of like asking lots of questions, possibly from somebody who has hurt us, somebody who has spilled. Maybe these cups were those cups that we were offering, right? Because we had this like 4 of cups over here, and then maybe somebody who walked away is coming back. Did you walk away, Aquarius? Do you really want to know your answers? This also tells me that maybe somebody wants to get closure. Somebody is able to transform something into something else. Whether this means emotionally there is a complete clarity and complete sense of moving in a new direction, and what could have worked, what didn't work, and reaching that final level of that complete perspective, right? It looks like it's not going to be a huge thunderbolt to big extent for us this month, and that's really good, but it's definitely going to be loyal heart. And this is more or less because we have learned how all these elements have to combine in this person, and that we have to sometimes suppress until later our urges to be that free and flowing and airy, where other people kind of like take that as kind of like almost like a ticket. They can do whatever they want, where actually this is not how it works. And I think you're going to learn that this month. So Aquarians, this is a general reading, and you can always order your own, and please do. I'm still getting this like speed up promotion, which is like a little bit more than 7 days at this stage because I'm doing monthlies, so 8 days. But I have actually pulled one more card, And so we'll seal this reading with this card, but just don't forget, if you can't come on Saturday on live and try to get a shot at winning, 15-minute reading with me, just visit me on social media, comment, interact with others, because really, we are Aquarians. If we don't interact with each other, who will? We can make this better world, and you never know. How would I know that my readings will help someone? How would you know that your comment is not really going to be the guiding force? Be that light. Look at this card. Be that light. Go toward light. So the card we got is a beautiful card. Look at this. Field of Dreams. So let me read this for you. It says, your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are always engaging the vast field of pure potential. This is the perfect time to harness the field of vast potential not yet realized in your life. Great abundance in yours if you're willing to do the work alongside the gentle gardener. Be clear about your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Concentrate on your best life regardless of the temporary outer conditions imposed upon you by the greater world, which has its own story to tell. You have a basket full of seeds that are quite powerful, for your talents are divinely inspired and will indeed lead to a greater harvest to be shared with others. You will reap, amazing, you will reap what you have sown. I swear to you, I didn't read it before. Dream big, dream beautiful. Take action and tend to the garden of your life and experience the extraordinary. I'm actually very excited about this month, guys, because it was like something turbulent that I have seen in Aquarian readings. And probably because I'm Aquarian, lots of Aquarians come here, and it really takes an Aquarian, and only besides Aquarian another Pisces can read for Aquarian and nobody else, given that we are 11th and the 12th signs. So we kind of like Pisces have the deep water. We have like this like really high spirit, and it's kind of like hard to match those energies. But something is being resolved. It's almost like sky's the limit, I would say, guys, but sort of like as kind of like I've seen as well, whatever you kind of like saw, it's going to come back. So even if it's a negative message, it's going to be there for that to be released. And that's the message of this month. You need to release it, or if you have been already doing that work and going through that kind of like trenches, then that's going to be reward. And it's going to be a completely new cycle that's going to be wonderful. And right people coming our way, us knowing how to set those boundaries, us knowing not to be too airy, and to kind of ask the right questions, even difficult questions. And all of a sudden people will not turn on us, but they will actually embrace that. It's going to be a change, and the change that we are going to embrace. So my dear Aquarians, again, hope to see you on Saturday live sessions. And until the next time, you can find me via my website, cattarot.ca, and you know that I love you. Sorry about the long reading, but there were like so much information in this. And if you're interested in my little furry nuisance that kind of wanted to start this reading, you can just like stay tuned for the next few minutes. Aqua girl, hello Aqua girl. What? Say hi to Aquarians. How did you know it's your reading? Huh? You have trouble in a relationship? You do? What did Matrix do to you? What did Mr. Matrix do to you? Oh, he didn't buy you a diamond necklace? Huh? Come on. Say hi to all Aquas. Come on. Yes. Are you bringing luck to everybody? Oh my gosh, guys, this is going to be such a loving month, like with the visit from my fur ball. Can I touch you? Can I touch you? Come here. Look at this. Of course, you're getting all this kind of like back end parts over here. Zephy, come on. Let's go. Right over here. Yeah, some aquas are like now freaking out. What the heck? The cats. This is kind of like really interesting, because that's, guys, what I'm seeing over here. 5 of Wands and 5 of Pentacles reversed. So we have 2 5s, and also worth waiting for.